on this. Einar Tangen joins me now from Beijing. He's a China foreign policy expert. Thank you so much for coming onto this program. Now, this may sound like a bit of an obvious question, but why is the relationship between China and the United States so important? And it's not just between these two countries, but globally as well. They play such an important role.
Well, yes. I mean, the world's leadership depends on an upcoming country. China is obviously, it's the #1 trade partner for over 120 countries. The United States is definitely the richest, most powerful politically and militarily. They need to come together to address climate change. But, ever since WTO and China's success, when perhaps the U.S. thought that was going to turn out differently, they thought they would that embracing capitalism would automatically mean that democracy would follow, and then the communist regime would somehow fade into oblivion, as it did in the Soviet era. So at that point, it hasn't worked, and it's compounded things. It's made a real ideological rift between them.
Is the ideological rift one of the main issues at play here with why the two sides can't really get on the same page with certain issues?
Yes, it's also a little bit of king of the hill. The United States is the hegemon. It's the existing power. It was a unipower for a while. Now it's having to adjust to a world in which many countries want their own voice. It's a multilateral universe now, and it's very difficult. And unfortunately, they sometimes have a tendency to say, "Well, it's China's fault. China took jobs, and from the U.S. Jobs did move to China, but that was decisions of the corporations there, and if they hadn't done it, their competitors in Europe and around the world would have, and they would have lost business. So it's a situation that started in motion, and it's very hard to stop at this point. There's bad feelings on both sides.
Well, those bad feelings, they were particularly bad during the Trump era. From Monday's meeting, it almost seems like things are warming up a bit now. The word cordial we've thrown around a lot this morning, just judging from the comments coming from both leaders at the start of that meeting. And is there a sense now that with this door open, both sides can walk through it to a more positive relationship where they can come to agreements on big issues?
Well, one hopes so, but you have to kind of separate different issues. Politically, the United States is not going to warm up to China. Taiwan is still in play for the U.S. It's a red line for China. It's a playing card for the Americans. Unfortunately, that does not work very well. But economically, with 60% of the United States voters believing that inflation is their #1 concern, Biden's approval ratings very low. He is anxious to do something, and people are projecting that he will do something about the tariffs. It was a failure. Donald Trump promised that tariffs would bring China to heel. Instead, the trade deficit is even larger than it was when he started. China and the U.S. are intertwined. They might have a tech war, but for certain, they cannot separate at any time in the near future.
Okay, Einar Tangen, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but really appreciate your perspective and analysis, as always, live to us from Beijing.